You're listening to Adoptees On, the podcast where adoptees discuss the adoption experience. This is Season 2, Episode 7, a special episode. I'm your host, Haley Radke. This episode is different than anything I've ever done before. This is a compilation of live interviews that I did recently at the Indiana Adoptee Network conference called Building Bridges. I talked with several different adoptees and just had some popcorn questions for them. Do they listen to the podcast? What are their thoughts about adoption? We talk about a couple different topics, so you'll hear those. Those are really short interviews. And then our longest interview is with a mother and daughter who were at the conference I got to meet. When you listen, I hope you'll feel like I do. I feel like I was on some sacred ground. When they were speaking to each other, I was really moved, and I hope you'll have the same experience as I did. And because there's so many guests in this show today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all their social media contact information in the show notes. So you can find those on adopteeson.com. Okay, let's get started. Our first interview is with Ruth. She is actually a Patreon supporter, so I was so excited to meet her, give her a giant hug, and she has such a sweet spirit. Let's listen in to Ruth. So, do you listen to Adoptee On?
Absolutely. It's my favorite podcast. I think I told you right at the beginning that I kind of binge listened for a while and caught up with them, so now I have to go back and re-listen.
Not trying to fish for compliments. That's very nice. Okay, so what you were just saying that you don't know how you feel about adoption.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I realized yesterday. I kind of had that moment where I thought, I don't really know how I feel about adoption at all. I had a really good adoption as far as that goes, but I can't figure out, I can't reconcile in my mind if closed adoption I don't think is a good thing. I'm not sure open adoption is a good thing. I'm just not sure what I feel about adoption anymore. Previous, if you had asked me a year ago, I would have thought it was an awesome thing.
And you're searching right now?
I am. I'm searching. Just kind of at the beginning. I haven't made contact or anything yet. I'm getting close.
Do you have anything that you would want to say to your family of origin, if you could?
I don't know what I would actually want to say to them. I think I just have a million questions for them. And again, I can't quite reconcile in my mind, meeting somebody that is my blood relative and then just having a list of questions. I can't, having a hard time distinguishing between a relationship with somebody and just finding out information. And I'm not even 100% sure which one I want.
That's profound, right? Oh my goodness. What do you wish non-adopted people understood about being adopted?
I wish they understood that I have no record of who I am and how big of a deal that is. I wish they knew that the things they take for granted, I don't have. And even though my life is good and I'm not complaining in any way, I just wish they understood what it is to not have your first chapter. And I wish they cared. I wish that they were aware enough to care.
And my next interview is with Lisa. She is studying to be a therapist, and so we talk a little bit about that in her interview. Let's listen in. Do you listen to Adoptees On?
I do, and I love it. It's my favorite podcast.
What do you like about it?
Well, I think it just captures the adoptee experience very well, and just that when you're with other people that get it, it's just you're with your peeps.
Right.
I'm with my adoptee peeps.
Awesome. Great. I wanted to ask you, is there anything that you wish you could say that's been unsaid to your family of origin? Either your birth mother, father, anybody?
With my birth father, I wish I could have known him. I mean, he died. He was dead years before I knew who he was. My birth mother, I wish that she had accepted me before she died. And I still hope that my siblings and I can know one another one day. You know, I think that's up to God. But just that I wish them peace and healing from their own traumas.
Yeah. Is there anything that you want non-adopted people to know about adoptees and about our experience?
Yeah, that it's traumatic and hard, and I wish that there would be more validation for our pain and suffering, but I don't need people's validation. I just want to, educate people and help my fellow adoptees when I become a therapist.
Yeah, so you're in training for that right now.
I am.
Yeah.
I am, and I am excited to help people, and I get it, and I can help others who are hurting.
And how about the people in your cohort, in your class? Like, do you ever talk to them about adoption? Do they get
And
it?
they don't get it,
No.
and I want them to get it. So
Yeah.
I'm helping to educate them. I find they're interested, and I'm going to keep dropping the mic, as Pam Krosky says. So going to keep doing that.
That's good. And what about adoption in general? What do you wish was different about adoption?
I wish the money was taken out of it, because I think it's basically buying children. I just think that needs to be taken out. I think there is a need for adoption in some instances.
Like what?
Like when there is bad abuse. There's just sometimes that it is necessary to protect the child. Adoption needs to be for the protection of the child, not for everybody else's interests. It should be about the child. So,
Yeah.
but I mostly think that children should be with their families if at all possible.
I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
And this next interview is with Michelle, and she's actually been to a ton of different adoption conferences, and so cool to hear from her experiences. I had breakfast with her one morning right before the conference started, and that was really enlightening. So let's listen into my chat with Michelle. Okay, so do you listen to Adoptees on?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and what are your thoughts about the show?
Very informative, very insightful. I really was touched by a couple of it was the healing series?
Yeah.
Yes. And I think I retweeted a couple of those episodes because they were really insightful, and it makes you, sometimes it gives words to emotions that you had but you couldn't label it. And sometimes you just think, okay, it's not just me. So it was very nice.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's so cool that you came to the conference. I've loved connecting with other adoptees. It's been so fun. I was wondering your thoughts on adoption. Should it ever happen? What do you think about that?
Well, I think when I was kind of in the fog, I used to think, I'm sure it's fine for some people. There are a lot of adoptees that are, it doesn't bother them at all, quote unquote. I think that more measures should definitely be taken to keep the mother and child together. And I think if that doesn't work, they should do kinship adoptions. I think sometimes I guess sometimes it's okay for a kinship adoption or something if a parent's, in serving a life sentence, or if the drug addiction is not resolving itself, I'd like to think about it more, but I would be very conservative in terms of when it's acceptable.
Right.
But I do know social workers who have told me, sometimes there is no choice. I was talking to one who said a Pakistani woman, she would have literally been killed, murdered, if her family found out she'd had a baby. Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah, that's... Thank you. Okay, last question. What do you wish non-adopted people knew about adoption or just living the adoptee life?
I think the safest thing to say would be, I wish they knew that they don't know. It's just that they try not to label us and put us in a box or put us in a certain place or assume that we're going to feel certain ways or that we should feel certain ways. and just to listen and understand. There's no way they're going to be able to grasp this because they haven't walked in those shoes.
Okay, up next is my interview with Erica and Marette, and they are such beautiful women. This is a mother and daughter who've been in reunion for 2 years now. I just want to set the stage for you a little bit. We were downstairs in our hotel where there was like a lobby area with a little restaurant, and we were chatting there, so you can hear like there's a bunch of people around. But this almost half an hour that we chatted, I couldn't hear anything but these women, and they're not talking to me, they're talking to each other. And it was incredible to see how similar they are. And you can hear both of them. Marette had these beautiful gold bangles on, so you can hear them when she's talking with her hands. You'll hear them jingling a little bit. And Erica had a silver bracelet with all these different little pieces on it as well. And so she jingles a little bit when she's talking with her hands. And it was just unbelievable to witness this conversation. Like I said in the intro, I feel like I was intruding in some sacred space. And so I hope you'll feel that too. Let's listen in to them talk about a bit about their reunion, why they attended the conference, and some of the different healing things that they're both working through.
You came to this conference because you wanted to find some healing together. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, Marette and I met 2 years ago, we're in a 2-year ago season.
Anniversary.
Yes, our anniversary. And this is actually her birthday present, was
it
this
is.
conference.
Thank you, dear.
Yes, you're so welcome. So we met in 2015 when the records were open in the state of Ohio. So I've searched my whole life for my biological family. I officially searched, I signed up for registries, and I hired private investigators, and I petitioned the courts, and I was denied and denied and denied. And, I wasn't actively searching the whole time, but I was pretty actively searching for about 27 years. And then, fortunately, Betsy Norris in the state of Ohio was also concurrently doing advocacy work at the same time, but I was completely unaware. I lived in Michigan. And so when the records opened in 2013, at the end of that year, right after the records opened, a friend of mine had Google searched adoption in Ohio and realized that they would be opening in 2015. So I went down to Columbus, marched to get my records at Vital Statistics. My birth certificate came on Easter Sunday. It actually came on Good Friday.
Okay, Good
In
Friday.
2015, and I decided to wait and open it on Easter Sunday because it was my rebirth day and also Resurrection Day. And so I opened it at the exact moment of my birth, 6:59 a.m., and then I found Marette within an hour, and actually on Facebook. And so I friend requested her and then went to church, and halfway through church she accepted my friend request, and then her first words to me were, "You must have a million questions, and I'll gladly answer every one." And we took it from Facebook into a pen pal situation, and we wrote back and forth for a few weeks, I would say.
Emailing for several weeks.
Yeah, and it
maybe
was
more.
amazing.
Before we even talked.
Yes, and I would, go ahead.
First time we talked, first time I heard your voice,
Yes,
I couldn't believe your voice.
yes.
Your voice is just so amazing, It's like the most amazing voice I've ever heard.
I felt the same way. I wondered, do I have your voice? Because my whole life people always would comment on my voice, and I felt her voice was very distinctive. And so it was very beautiful how it unfolded, and so I know we're telling you the reunion story. This is leading up to why we're here, but we met then in May of 2015.
It was in June, wasn't it? In June?
We met May and June. I came to visit you in May 1st. Brian and I came to Wilmington.
Yes.
And we spent a weekend. Yep. And then we went to Ohio in June, and I met my birth father and my siblings, and so it was, and Marette flew in for that, and which was pretty cool because all the college buddies still hang out, and that was a bit surreal. And then And then we went then that fall of 2015. I was speaking at a conference in Paris, actually during the terrorist attacks. And that was very crazy. I was very close to that whole scene. And Maurette was scheduled to fly over then that following weekend. And so Maurette was born in Germany, and she came to the United States when she was 5. And her whole family returned to Germany after my birth. And so she took me on a tour of my homeland, and I got to walk the streets, cobblestone streets of Coburg, where my grandmother and great-grandmother and great-great-grandmother walked, and saw the house they were born in, and it was just extraordinary. And then the following year, Maurette came to Michigan actually that fall before we went to Europe together. You met my mom and dad, my whole family.
Yeah.
And then, I can't remember the next time we met. So that was 2015 was a big year. And 2016, Maurette came. We met in Ohio for the 1-year anniversary of opening records.
That's right. And then, actually, then we spent a weekend in New York.
Yes, we spent a weekend in
so
New York.
Fascinating
But we also, this
week.
summer, you came to Michigan for a week.
That's true. We went there.
And,
yes. All right, we've been to you twice.
yeah, we've spent a lot of time together.
Yeah.
And so this trip was, this year, I wanted to come to this conference, primarily just because I wanted to continue my healing journey, and I felt like this would be a wonderful way for she and I just to spend time together. We're usually together with our husbands,
Yeah.
and so just to get some one-on-one time, and it's been amazing. I mean, there's been a lot of birth moms here, first moms here, as well as adoptees that have been, decades into their reunion, and I think there's just a tremendous amount of wisdom.
Oh, it's just too amazing for words. I'm just blown away by all of this.
Yeah. What's your couple takeaways that you could share?
I'm so amazed by all of the stories, all of the incredible stories that people have that are just totally unbelievable to me. I mean, when I think about it, you and I have had a relatively, an excellent way of reuniting, I think.
Yeah, it's been really.
We are probably a model of reunions.
Yeah, I think it's been very. I mean, we're in the honeymoon, right? But I think it's.
I know, but
I think it's more than that. I mean,
no, it's more than that.
when I first met Maurette, I felt like a connection. I felt I recognized myself in her, and
With the same people.
yes.
I mean, you guys, you can't see this, but you look so similar. You have similar style. Like, you are
Yeah.
so
Look at even our
similar.
shoes. Look at our
Oh
shoes
my
today.
God, you're just,
Hold the shoe
yes.
up there. We didn't plan this.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
mean,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh my
we're
gosh.
wearing the same strappy shoes.
Oh.
But it's true, and I'd never seen anybody I resembled before. I don't have any children, and so Maurette was my first experience of resemblance, which, as you know, is such a profound thing as an adoptee. But I also recognized, hearing so many stories of these reunions that start out and then something goes awry, and I think a lot of it is the healing hasn't been completed. And so, as much as anything, I feel like a huge takeaway for me is how do we have those harder conversations, those deeper conversations about how we each individually coped from the significant trauma of separation, and how do we make sure that we don't act destructively to one another in that journey.
That is something I think we have learned, hearing all of these stories about separation and connection, reseparation, and coming back to, all of these stories are just very strange and hurtful to me, because I don't want that for us.
Yeah, I don't want that either.
I never want to be angry with you.
Yes, I know, and yet we will have moments where we will be angry. I mean, undoubtedly.
I will never be angry with you. I do not get angry with people.
Yeah, I really don't. You know what? This is another thing. We're very similar this way.
Yeah.
I don't really get angry much either, and both of us, like to create harmony and keep the peace. But I also think there are things that are important for us to continue to process. And Marette is an artist, and so I feel like there's something that we will co-create. I feel like a missing piece here for me is that there weren't a lot of mothers and children. There was a one sibling group that came. There was one other mother and daughter recently reunited. But I feel like that's so important, because how do you process that in reality, in reunion? And so I'm so glad that we've done this. And we said outside earlier, let's do this again. Let's continue to
this is way
to grow together.
This is one way that we can be together for the rest of my life, at least.
Yes.
But anyway, anger. I don't know what happens to people.
When they separate here, you mean? In the reunion?
I just don't understand it.
There's a lot of adoptees that are going to listen that have been rejected by their first parents, like me. Is there something that you would want to say to us?
I think that probably the reasons for rejection were not all about you. They were about protection of themselves, maybe peer pressure or spousal pressure, and you'll never know, probably. I wish you could find out why. I mean, that's what you need to know. You need to know why. Why, do you have any reason? Does your birth mother has ever given you any reason?
No, not me personally. And I think that for a lot of us, that's what we hear. We just hear nothing.
Yeah.
I've interviewed other adoptees that have they've spent days pouring out their hearts in this beautiful letter, and they send it away, and they have gotten a letter from a lawyer back. Never contact me again.
I know that. I know this.
Well, and part of it, I think too, is that it's often about shame. So when I first found Marette, what I did not realize and I didn't anticipate, my whole life I've been searching, and I did prepare that possibly my name would have been redacted off the birth certificate. Possibly I would have found a grave. Possibly I would have been rejected, and hoped that I would be embraced and accepted. But I could not even conceive of what her lived experience was as a first mother, because I too hadn't met any birth moms. And so one of the things I didn't anticipate was that this was going to resurrect all of the emotions. It was going to pull her back 45 years into the feelings of shame and fear and embarrassment and terror and all those things that you felt that I don't want to say what those were for you, but
yes, exactly. That was it.
Right. And I think one thing that was unique about Marette and I is that her husband, Jay, knew that she had surrendered me for adoption, and so it wasn't a surprise to him, and they did not have any other children together. And so that was both something I needed to be very sensitive about in terms of how he would receive this and me. And so I was very intentional about considering her experience and her marriage, and to not do or say or position anything in such a way that would ever make Marette have to choose or have Jay feel that he wasn't as full a part of this as she was. And so I was incredibly intentional about that. And I had a social worker, a very good friend of mine who's a social worker, who said that right away. You need to really recognize, these two, you don't know their story, but they don't have children. You're not his biological child. And, this could be divisive if you press prematurely or whatever. And so we went out and our first meeting, Jay was very much a part of that, and Jay and my husband Brian fell in love, and
Yeah,
we
they're all
fell in love.
connected.
We all were just like, it was very beautiful.
And Jay loves both of you, you know. It's like
Yeah, it's-
he looks forward to seeing both of you.
Yeah,
You know-
and we love Jay. I feel like
Yeah.
he's, another bonus dad, But the thing I wanted to say about Marette described it as, it was almost like this submerged beach ball that was pushed down, and then when I found her, like, it popped out so fast with such velocity
Such
that it
intensity.
overwhelmed her and, broke her. For a season, it was a breakdown for you. I don't know if you want to share about that.
I was broken. I have always felt broken for many reasons. But anyway, I don't know what my relinquishment had to do with that. But it probably thrust me further into the abyss of whatever I was going through.
Well, at the beginning, I think it was it was like pulling the Band-Aid off very
Oh, yes.
quickly, and it was
Okay.
very,
All right. Oh,
very
yeah.
fast. But it actually provided a healing happened in the end, because she stayed with it. She'd done enough internal work, and I had done enough internal work that I think our life stage, she's in their 70s, I'm in my 40s, we know that time is limited, and, so I feel like there was a readiness factor for us.
Yeah, it came at the perfect time. Although, yes, at the perfect time, actually. But, I'm just so happy that we found each other before I'd become senile. It's like,
Yeah, before it's too late
yeah.
to have a meaningful relationship.
Well, it's been so lovely chatting with you. I just have 2 more questions. What would you say needs to change in the adoption world? Like, should adoption exist or not? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a really big question. I struggle, especially with, here's what's happening for me is actually I'm trying to kind of figure this out right now for myself, because I am so grateful for the parents that did raise me. And I know, even though not everything about my experience growing up was ideal, that they did absolutely the best that they could, that I wouldn't be the person I am today without their very significant influence, and that my biological parents weren't in a position to be able to raise me. So you can kind of do the what ifs. So I can't really say that adoption shouldn't happen, because then it denies a huge part of my own lived experience. That said, I think it's a very complicated issue, and I, particularly around transracial adoption, international adoption, I have major concerns about that, about the layers upon layers that you have to then uncover and unpeel, and the lifetime that it takes to process through those wounds and those questions of identity. I think that there are cases that adoption should occur, but I think that we should make every effort to keep families together, mothers and children together. And I like what Leslie said about, if that can't happen, your second best is a kinship adoption, so you keep the child in the family, or at minimum in the home country. And then I'm still sorting out how I feel about embryo adoption. That came up, and I think that if a woman were to consent that her embryos could be adopted, I don't know. Would I rather see that than have them destroyed? Possibly, but I don't want to see it become a business. I think the business of adoption has done more harm than good, and our Pollyanna fairy tale approach, we deny so much of the woundedness. And what Leslie said about infertility plus money equals adoption is so true, and that paradigm has to change. We have got to help adopted parents today understand that adoption is a lifelong journey, and that child will always have 4 sets of parents or more if their families split, you know?
Right, yeah.
And so to help them emotionally process that through every stage of their life cycle is part of what you sign up for if you're going to adopt a child. And I think there are children in foster care, there are truly abandoned children that need a home, and every child should be able to have a home. So I can't say adoption should be completely ended, but I think it should be significantly shifted to be much more adoptee centric and much more of a first mother informed consent process, so that they recognize the lifetime consequence of that decision.
Wow, that was very well said. Thank you. Now, my very last question is, what do you say to people who are not adopted? They have no part in adoption. They don't have a clue. Like, what would you say to them? What is adoption? What is it? What has it done to you? What has it done to in your lives?
All right. For me, it has been very, very difficult because I've hidden this part of my life from everyone, all of my life. There are only a handful of people who knew that I gave birth to Erica. And as a result, I've been in a closet for 50 years. And I now live in an area in which I am not supported by liberal people because it's a very strange area. I would like to move back to Cincinnati or live in New York, where there are those people who will accept everything. So I've only told select people. Somehow, I, as a birth mother, feel vilified, and I think that's something that I don't know how to deal with it. It's probably in my head, I don't know. But I think it's in other people's heads too. So,
And one thing I heard this weekend that really spoke to me about that was you're so selfless for giving up your baby. Yeah. And then immediately once you do, how could you give up your baby? Like, you are getting two messages.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. How could you give up your children? I heard that from my husband. How could you do that? I don't know. I mean, I just have I just wish I had counseling. I wish today were back then, when there are so many resources, more resources than there were back then in 1966. There was no one I could talk to except for this xenophobic, misogynist doctor. who
But your mindset of giving, of relinquishment was also that pressure, right? That you believed this lie that you couldn't have done it, and that we were going to this better home, right? And we talked a little bit about this, like what some of those lies that you were told that you believed.
I really believed that Erica was going to be adopted immediately out of the hospital and go to a good home. Professional people, apparently, I thought, they told me. And no, she was not adopted immediately. She languished in a foster home for 3 months without any support, without any mother hugging her, cradling her. She didn't have any of this. What a normal infant needs. I don't know. There you're rocking. And I rock too. We both rock, don't we?
Yeah.
Because...
Yeah, I didn't even notice that. Yeah. It's true.
See, I should have been rocking you. That would have been the best thing for both of us. And I'm so sorry that, we couldn't have done it. If only I had the support.
And the thing is, though, I love you and thank you for that. And you didn't have the support. And so, I think part of it, too, is that I'm angry at what adoption was back in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. And even open adoption. I've really shifted my perspective about open adoption this weekend, too. But for me, I would say, there's so much I would say, but I'll try to be succinct. One thing I would say is that, I don't think that people realize, that the general population realizes that there are over 4 million of us just in the United States alone, many of us who do not have access to our original birth certificates or our original identities. And so you wander through life searching. I always used to say it was like I was a dangling participle, and a diagram sentence just left out there, no before, no after, and just so lost. And my parents did the very best that they could to provide me.
They did.
But they did an amazing job in so many ways.
They are such beautiful people.
They
really
are. They are. They really are. They are. But it's taken me a long time to get to that place, and I had huge expectations, I would say, for adopted parents. I had huge expectations of my adoptive parents that they could never have given me, and I never realized they couldn't have given me until I met my biological family, because they couldn't have given me my roots, they couldn't have given me my medical history, they couldn't have given me resemblance, they couldn't have given me that anchor of identity that could only come through my genetic foundation. And so we have got to change that. This is a civil rights issue, it's a human rights issue. There are millions of people that still do not have access, and they want access, and they can't get it, and they are grown up now. Adoption is not just, rescuing these little babies. Babies grow up into adults that want to self-actualize, and you can't do that without knowing where you came from.
They're looking for the truth.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what everyone here is looking for.
And I also think that it's going to be unnatural for everybody who listens to your podcast, because they're finding you for a reason. They're searching for something, a connection with others like them. But I think that, a lot of my friends of color in my town, I do, advocacy around equity issues. And so, we have Black Women Connect, and we have the Latina Ladies Network, and, different groups that come together, and the importance of affinity groups is really important. And this is a bit of an invisible minority, right? I mean, we're somewhat forgotten, somewhat silenced, and very much marginalized, right? Because of all the messages that we're told to be grateful and just be happy that you got a home. And there's nothing unnatural about wanting to know your nature and understand how that fits with your nurture. And so I think that for people to find support out there, and if there isn't a support group in their state or their country, to find podcasts like what you are doing, Haley, is so crucial. You're my favorite podcaster right now. I love you.
Cool.
And I found so much connection with your work and the people that you have connected us to. And I found so much support through my little secret Facebook groups that are other adoptees that are going through this experience of search and reunion. It is a lifetime journey, and it is important to plug in and find folks that you can connect with.
Thank you, ladies, so much. It has just been an honor to sit here and watch you talk to each other. It's so beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You can actually watch a YouTube video, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes, of Marette and Erica meeting for the first time. And I want to just share one more thing with you about that incredible interview I had with these two women. Erica brought out her purse at the end when we were finished the interview, and she pulled out this piece of paper, and she's like, "Haley, do you want to see my birth certificate?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, okay." And then she talked a little bit about the open records and why she was able to find her biological family. So she pulls out her birth certificate and she showed it to me, and I'm going to cry. I just started crying. It was amazing. I've never seen my own original birth certificate, and she has hers. And that's because of so many other adoptees and first parents that have been working so hard on changing the legislation and trying to allow everyone to have access to their original birth certificates. So I'll never forget that moment. It was incredible. And thank you, Erica, for sharing that with me. That's the first real birth certificate I've seen besides my son's. So powerful. Okay, before we wrap up, I want to thank the team of organizers that put on the Building Bridges event, Pam Krosky and Marcy and Jennifer. Thank you so much for all your hard work. It was incredible to be in the same room as 80 plus attendees that were adoptees and first parents and other people that are really invested in changing legislation, figuring out how to heal adoption trauma, and just to change the system together. It was an amazing experience. I'd love to attend another conference. And when I hear of other events like this in the future, I'll be sure to let you know. And if you have a chance to go to an event like this, please do. I literally came away changed. You've gotten to hear from a bunch of different people in this episode, and I want you to be able to find them on social media so you can connect with them, chat with them about what they've shared here. And so I'm going to post links to everyone's social media channels in the show notes. So you can find those. You go to adopteeson.com. So I want to say a big thank you again to Lisa, Ruth, Michelle, Erica, and Marette. Thank you for being on the podcast today. Thanks for sharing some of your stories, some of your different opinions. I just really loved getting everyone's different perspectives. If you want to keep connecting, keep talking about these adoptee issues, one of the awesome safe spaces you can do that is if you join my Patreon team. You can partner with me. You can, Patreon is a platform where you sign up and you contribute a small amount each month to help me cover the costs of producing the podcast. And as a thank you, I have a secret Facebook group, and we have some really great discussions about the episodes in there. You'll find other Patreon supporters in that group. You'll find former guests of the show. It's such a wonderful space. So I hope you'll come and join up with us there. You can do that at adopteeson.com/partner to find more details. And of course, we're on all the social media channels. Come find us wherever. Facebook page, we've got Instagram at Adopteeson, Twitter at Adopteeson. Come and chat with me. I would love to talk with you. Thanks for listening. Let's talk again next Friday.